Hello again. Very few people in this country are active ideologues in that they carefully think through a coherent series of political propositions and test each one logically until they have a systematic set of ideas to which they can subscribe and are prepared to defend. Rather, we might feel instinctively that we wish to live next door to people who speak the same language as us, or perhaps we want to be sure that our own children are in line for a council house ahead of people who entered the country illegally. These are not political views, and they have no connection at all with an ideology of either the left or right, nor are such feelings part of any abstract notion relating to fascism or racism. Most of us honestly do not think in those terms. It suits the present government, though, to claim that some fierce ideological struggle is now taking place in this country between wicked folk who are far right, on the one hand, and who wish to drag our society back to the Dark Ages, or at least the 1970s, and on the other, the forces of progressive and humane thought who wish to lead us to the sunlit upland plains where we will all of us, black and white, Muslim and Jew, old and young, live happily ever after in a vaguely left-wing paradise where the lion will lay down with the lamb and we will beat our swords into ploughshares. This is why the so-called far right is very useful to the government. In fact, at the moment, it's absolutely essential. They are the enemy which are holding ordinary people back and preventing them from entering the promised land. They are all that stand between us and the golden age. The truth is, no government can really last long unless they can show people what it is which is preventing them from giving everyone all the things that they want, like affordable housing, plentiful food, and cheap electricity. Whether that government is running Soviet Russia, Nazi Germany, or modern Britain, they desperately need an excuse to explain why they are not delivering the goods, as one might put it. In Russia, it was at various times saboteurs or agents of Western imperialism which were holding them back. And in Nazi Germany, it was, of course, the Jews to blame for all their ills. It helps too if you can give the enemies an international flavour and hint that they are being controlled from abroad. For the Nazis, there was international Jewry. In the Soviet Union, it was international capitalism. And yesterday, the Director of Public Prosecutions in this country said that those who use the internet to incite riots from abroad face extradition and prosecution here. In this country today, it is the far right who are at the back of all our troubles. If we could just root out and imprison members of the far right, then everything will be fine, and it will be business as usual, and Starmer's administration can proceed with the same programme as Rishi Sunak's. One is irresistibly reminded of what Mencken, the American political journalist, said about 100 years ago. The whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed and hence clamorous to be led to safety by an endless series of hobgoblins, most of them imaginary. Which is why, of course, Keir Starmer has conjured up the imaginary menace of the far right. To anybody familiar with world history, the present situation is a really cliched one, which has been seen time and time again over the centuries. It's one of the oldest games in the political playbook. Perhaps that's why efforts are being made to divorce young people from history and discourage them from studying the past, while we are now trying to impose a year zero on the country and disregard all previous events and start from scratch. Because if the population really saw what this government was up to and was able to compare it with previous tricks which are identical in both purpose and execution, they might rise up and deal with those scoundrels as they deserve. As it is, though, most people simply listen open-mouthed and lap up the lies and distortions which they're being fed.